I would say they were gonna have a rough go of it in their first season under Dan Quinn. We know he's
for
known
sure.
for his defenses, and they've got a rookie quarterback in there. But we're seeing what Jaden Daniels can do. We're also seeing what Caleb Williams can do. So to me, I thought this would be this would be more. This would be more. I would see more offense in this game, but it came down to the defenses, and both defenses those are good defenses.
Not the secondary of the Commanders. That still needs work. That was proven again in this game when they gave up those 2 touchdowns. And they've proven that against the Ravens and against the Bucs. It wasn't exposed as much in the other games, especially when you think about the fact that they they won 7 field goals to 6 over the Giants, and they have to play them this upcoming week. So I'm hoping that isn't that ugly of a contest again. I mean, it was good of a contest on the defense to keep it to that type of game. But, of course, the fans want to see some type of action on the offense. And it was bleak throughout the game for the Commanders. They had only scored 4 field goals out of 5 attempts. So to get that at the end of the game, like that experience alone, like I said, growing up, having the 3-13 seasons, the 4-13 season last year, the 6-10s, all this other stuff, all these seasons throughout the history, throughout the Dan Snyder tenure of his ownership, things are finally starting to turn around. They're going to need another off season or 2. Maybe a little bit more than that, but in the next 5 years, do not be surprised if you see the Commanders in the Super Bowl, let alone win one, because it was a wild experience. Just the energy in the stadium, the energy from this team just exuberates throughout the stadium. They just need a really good place to play because that still needs a lot of work. I'm glad I had the old Redskins seat cushions to take with me from back in the day when the last time I went, because those seats still needed work, but they had spots for our adult beverages, and even though it was really expensive to buy them, of course we indulged in a couple. We got to enjoy the experience as a fan, and just like you guys do with like baseball or whatever. But you can't take it away, man. And just to be able to look back on how the past 2 years have been, and to be able to have that experience and then go in that moment, it's inconceivable. It really is.
Now, you wore that Terry McLaurin jersey to the game. Are you going to wash it until they lose? Are you not going to wash it until they lose?
I have not watched it yet. You're absolutely right.
Good for you.
Go. There you go. That's old school.
It has been on a clothes hanger hanging up in a doorway of another room here in the house, but it's, I have not, it's not like I've worn it the entire time since I got home. No, but it's
good.
I wore it on Total Football Talk yesterday. I'm going to wear it here today with you.
Yeah.
Wear it with student of the game tomorrow. And I don't think I'm going to do it for when we talk CFL on Friday though, Ryan. I just think it's a little out of the element. But I might have the belt though. Who knows? The belt.
Have the belt. The belt
might come with me, but I learned how long I can hold a belt. It's like pretty much held it all day. Like I was letting other people hold it and stuff too. The funniest part too, which Cole couldn't believe at the end, was when I had a Bears fan hold it, take a picture with it.
Oh man,
yeah.
I saw that video of you that you sent to me while you're doing your post game report of a Bears fan in the back. Comes right behind and goes, "Go Bears! We're still making the playoffs."
Yeah, he ran off. I saw that clip too.
That guy was wild. We were talking with him at different points throughout the tailgate. He was coming up. We got there pretty early. Got there a little after 11. But the one thing that we learned though is trying to grill chicken on a charcoal grill is not a good idea. You need to have like a smoker or something like that, which. He's like almost a master chef. I was telling you about it last week, Ryan, about how like he, had almost got on Hell's Kitchen before back in the day.
Wow.
And he marinated some great chicken. It was awesome, but it took forever to cook. So we spent more time messing around with that. We only got like a couple sandwiches out of it, but it was good enough to have that. We were drinking some really good adult beverages that day, and it was an experience. Threw the football around. There was a group of college kids beside us playing beer pong with White Claws. So I was like, nah.
Oh man.
I can't go try to play. Can't go try to play with them. I was like, how are you gonna if they were playing with like beer or whatever, which we had. I mean, I had a cooler. I put a case in there because I was giving some out too, like because I knew I wasn't gonna drink all of it. It was the first time but the first time I drank in a while, and just to be able to do that, because the past few times I've been in the media. Like I couldn't drink and do that up in the press box and do the things that I did that way. So yeah, to be back for the first time in 2 years and the first time in 8 as a fan. And shout out to my man, Paul Kelly, because when we go The franchise is undefeated. They are 3-0 when we go. They were the Redskins when we went the past 2 times in 2011 and 2016. And now as the Commies, we are number 1 in the NFC East. The first time in those times that we've seen them in the first at different times in our lifetime, but the first time since we have been. And at this point in the season, because this is like the sweet spot in the year to go with the weather and to see what you've got on like as a real team at this point in the year. Like this is the point in the year where I told you, Ryan, I said it was around this time, week 8, I could start giving you a true definition of this team because I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. And at this point now, I can tell you after this game, they still have some things to work on, but I am drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit now as I have the jersey, as I have the belt, and I have the number 1 foam finger for the house now until I get a chance to go back.
So we have a couple of comments here from our guy, Staniel Smooth from Time to BS with Staniel Smooth. He asks, hey, Drew, can you kind of promo as Macho Man or The Rock? He also says, Drew's voice reminds me of a redneck Macho Man Randy Savage from TNA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough to do when your voice is coming back.
I know your voice is still kind of wonky.
Yeah, you know from as much content as you and I have done together, like my voice is not at 100. But you know, I definitely can cut promos. I feel like some of the stuff like I've talked about within my experience, I've been cutting promos within a promo. Like it's definitely been a great weekend that we had. I still have more content to edit that I'm going to put on this week's episode of Commander's Gridiron Report, which I didn't find a chance to do today because I wanted to make sure I was here. But I'm going to try to either do it tomorrow or by Thursday it'll be out. There's a lot within the tailgate, the experience within the stadium, and then just it's a lot, man. So we still haven't put everything out there yet.
Yeah, in our YouTube description, the Facebook description, I put your links in there, sartobamedia.com and the YouTube page for Sartoba Media. So if people want to check it out, go for it. You know, the links are below. Drew will let people know when he's put up his content. So thanks, Drew, for getting us the firsthand account of what happened on Sunday at Northwest Field. We do appreciate it. That's basically the most entertaining game for the week because you were there and you give us a firsthand account.
Yeah. I'm just glad it lived up to being able to do what I just did. Like, because we talked about, me coming up before the game even, happened. I didn't think I'd have that kind of a story. I figured it'd be some other things filled in with that, which there's still a lot more to say, that's why I'm saying tune into Commander's Gridiron Report. Yeah. There's a lot of content, a lot of photos, and a lot of great times from that day. I'm content for a while. I could go another 8 years until I go back as a fan and watch more TV if I need to, because that's how do you top that? How do you fathering top that experience, man? Like, everything from beginning to end was great.
Well, and especially with that Bears player taunting the fans, it's ridiculous. And confession time, since we're all being honest, you were honest with us, Drew, about you were kind of blowing smoke when you're saying, hey guys, we got this. So Ryan texts me. Now, this is where Red Zone gets me. Red Zone got me one time. So Ryan texts me and he says, Drew's going to have quite a story to tell on Tuesday. And I said, yeah. And here's what I said, fully pulling the curtain back. I go, not the ending he wanted, though, because here's what happened. I was doing housework around the house because, as you may have heard, I have plans next weekend. So I'm trying to get things done. So I don't have much to do. So I'm doing housework and I see the Bears touchdown on Red Zone. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go roll my hose up and put it in the garage. I'll be back in. Red Zone has the rule that there can't only be one game left. And that was the last game. So they brought it up to the Bears touchdown, and then they switched over to the touchdown montage. So by the time I come back in, it's in the middle of the touchdown montage. I read Ryan's text. I type what I type. And then I found out later, because I was watching a recap, that what actually happened. And I was shocked.
I still have, because usually, because you can't watch every single game on TV because it's not set up that way. And I have Red Zone as well, but I also within the Red Zone package I have on the NFL Network, I can watch all the highlights, like in-depth highlights and everything. So I usually go through and watch all of them, but I didn't go back and watch the Commanders one, even though I usually go back and check it out after I've watched it live. Because we have Total Football Talk the next day, I got to be able to talk about it. I still have yet to go back and watch that because I still haven't seen the play since being there. Like I haven't, the people have sent me clips. I still haven't looked at them yet because I just remember it from being right there. That's all I want to remember it as right now. Like it was, that's the best. That's better than the view that they show you on TV.
Yeah,
of course.
What I find underrated these days is experiencing it yourself and not having to put it on video. Because I feel like when you put things on video, when you put events or moments on video, or you always constantly putting it on your phone, you miss out on things. You miss out on the special things.
Yes,
and that's I credit you for that, Drew. I credit you for not having your phone out, trying to capture the moment, because you're just trying to pay attention to what's going on around you. And
all of our
on the
photos. Field. All of our photos Paul took, like of in game. I didn't take a single photo because I was
good for you.
Like you just had on the promo part. I was the guy. There's pictures of me floating around out there yet that I've still yet to see. Okay, like I just people love this belt, and they were winning most of the game. It wasn't until like right at the end, I call it the Tebow style, where the Bears started making those 2 touchdowns and made the comeback. And then of course the guy with the belt has to step up as the champ. Okay, and it has to just make everybody believe. And even Paul said after the game, he's like, that's why you're special, man. You get that personality. Like everybody was believing. And the one Bears fan that was talking smack, Paul Kelly saw this because first thing it happens, the play does, turn to Paul Kelly, give him a big ass hug, jump up and down, you're all yelling and everything. And then turn to the next person, hug, and now go to the guy that's in front of me who's a Bears fan who's looking like he's getting ready to leave, and he's the one who talked the most smack all game. I spun him around, dapped him up, and said, yes, this is karma. This is karma. You should have picked Jaden Daniels, but you didn't. We had a chance. We got him, and we're going forward. And I had the phone finger right there going, we the ones. Shot the bloodline. WWE. It was great. There's a promo for you. But no, it's a true story. It's to be there in that moment. Like I didn't anticipate starting off a show like this with you guys like this hyped up, this tired, but this hyped up, and still be able to bring some great content with it because you don't when you go back to last year, you don't think about this talking about the Commanders. Call them the commies, their name, talking to a guy that has the formerly logo on his arm from many years ago with some cool art. But to be able to embrace it and stick with them during the tough times, because like you guys saw during the 4-13 season, and I actually did believe in Sam Howell for a while, but they needed to change. They needed to do what they did. They got 17 new starters out of 22 starters between offense and defense, and that's how they started the year this year. And now they're 6-2. I mean, you have to do a complete overhaul in order to get to this point, and not everybody gets to enjoy this type of rebuild this quick. So I'm embracing it for what it is, and just excited to see what comes about from it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's read some comments, take a quick commercial break, then we'll dive into the rest of the NFL Week 8 and talk about some upsets, some disappointments, and some takeaways. Champy says Cardinals are the most underrated team in the NFL. And he also says Kyler Murray, top 5 quarterback. We'll talk about that in the next segment. We're going to move on with the comments. So Dodger Lady saying sports ball and go Dodgers. Yeah, the best team money can buy.
Oh man, it's going your way, Dr. Lady. It's going your way. That's all I can say.
You think they sweep them tonight?
Probably.
Yeah, I hope not, but it's looking that way.
Yeah, I think it's looking that way too.
Just to think how much of a difference Shohei made, coming in, and he hasn't even pitched yet.
I don't think it's
wow.
I think that grand slam in game 1 broke not only Aaron Boone but the Yankees.
Yeah,
50 stolen bases and 50 home runs in a season. First time we've ever seen that. It's absolutely insane. And people wondered what would happen if he focused solely on hitting for a year. Now that you got it, we'll see what he does next year. We're trying to balance out pitching. I don't think he'll be able to do 50-50 again, but Shohei's special. He is our modern day Babe Ruth, and they'll be talking about modern day Shohei Ohtani's down the road of what they want to model like, because this is awesome to watch.
And then the hot take artists out there saying, well, what if Shohei spoke English? And it's like, shut up and enjoy the game. God.
Playmaker.
Darnell Solins going by his government name. Playmaker saying, Ryan, Dustin, and Drew Willie. What's good, fellas? He also says, by the way, Dustin, we're frenemies now. LOL.
I mean, your Rams team, you're getting healthy. You're getting healthy, and I am concerned. I will address the Seahawks later in the show, as I often do. I found a way to just pigeonhole it in there.
Yeah, well, our friend from Belly Up Fantasy Sports, also a frequent guest on No Credentials Required, Kevin Wilson, saying, Dustin, I'm sure you threw up after what happened in Seattle.
I did also, because I had to deal with Buffalo fans after that. I know some Buffalo fans at work and other places, and it wasn't pretty. But you got to take the good with the bad. You know, as Drew knows, you got to step in when your team is not doing the best, and then you can relish it when they're doing great. So
you take the good, you take the bad, you take them all, and what you have, the NFL.
There you go. Nice save. Nice save, because your rendition was so beautiful that I was afraid that we were going to get a content strike. I can't even talk. I couldn't even.
You can't talk anymore. Julie from Michigan checking in and saying, "Go Lions!"
Hey, my man Hawk loves that. My man Hawk from work, he's a Lions fan, so definitely enjoy your season. They're my NFC favorites. They are my NFC favorites to make it to the Super Bowl this year. I'm saying it now.
Vicala checking in saying, "Hey yo, it's the three kings of No Credentials Required: Dustin, Sensei Drew Willingham, and the international Irish Italiano supervillain Espresso McCoffee."
We need to get you the button.
The button?
Yes, the Vicala button.
Jersey G checking in. She hasn't checked in a while, but Jersey G, BYU fan. Congratulations to your Cougars and Cosmo. She says, "Hey guys, what's going on, Jersey G? Thanks for checking in." And again, congrats to your BYU Cougars, doing really well in the Big 12. I think it's their second season in the Big 12, if I'm not mistaken. But they're rolling right now. Oh, and before we're going to break, Playmaker saying, "How amazing is it that the NFC West is wide open?"
It is.
We'll talk about that after the break. And Jersey G saying, "Thank you. We're 8-0. Go Cougs." Go Cougs.
She was also in our Discord talking about the BYU Cougars. If you haven't jumped into the Discord, come on in. The water's nice and warm.
Absolutely, it is. All right, we're going to take our commercial break. But when we come back, we will talk about the rest of the NFL, week 8 of the NFL. So please stay tuned for more No Credentials Required.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
All right, folks, let's talk about Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. This is great jerky. Craft jerky, handmade. Well, I was like handmade jerky, but it's not your usual beef jerky. Got wide variety of flavors. My favorite happens to be the OG hickory. Also a big fan of the teriyaki Balboa, which is a Korean barbecue flavor. They also got beef sticks, which are 100% beef. Not like the other stuff you see in convenience stores. Their primary ingredient, pulverized chicken.
Macho Man would not be happy about that.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, no. Well, in addition to their crap. What? Go ahead. Jerry.
During the commercial, I did get a Slim Jim, so you can snap into a Slim Jim.
But not right now, because it's Righteous Felon Craft Jerky time. Again, 100% real beef, but not only do they have the regular beef jerky, the variety of flavors there, they also have turkey jerky, which tastes like Thanksgiving dinner. They also have the air-dried African-inspired biltong. They also have handcrafted dog treats. Dog treats, get some for your dog. They've also got great gear, great dog toys too. So what do you want? This is what you want to do. Go to righteousfelon.com. Enter promo code belly up. Oh my goodness. Can't talk. So excited about craft jerky. Enter promo code belly up at checkout. You get 15% off your order. But that's not the only thing you get. So if you get an order of $50 or more, they throw in free shipping. So you can combine the promo code and the free shipping, save yourself some extra bucks. So again, righteousfelon.com, promo code belly up at checkout, 15% off your order, free shipping for any order over $50. And again, you can combine the savings with the promo code, save yourself some even more money.
That's some tasty savings. And I've still got to try the turkey jerky. Because every time you say that it is tastes like a Thanksgiving dinner, I'm like, I got to try that.
It legit does.
Righteous Felon. That's
Yes,
pretty awesome. So is there like a background of how this was created?
I don't know. Let's check go to the website. righteousfelon.com.
I'm trying to understand this. Just make sure this isn't like a background with like the Diddler and stuff. You know, like there's no background.
No, they're not affiliated with Diddy. No.
Okay. All right, good.
No oil was used in the making of the products.
Oh, in Jersey, do you have the comments? Says, I challenged Drew to order Righteous Felon because my daughter loves it so much better than that store-bought brand that he has. Ooh, challenge issued.
I mean, this is actually on discount. I got 2 boxes. One to check out a little bit, and the other was I'm gonna give it out as Halloween candy so the kids can have it. Like, I'm not eating all this stuff. Like, I'm down to try some jerky. Yeah, I'm down to try some awesome food. Like, you should have seen the pictures from our tailgate on Sunday. Yeah, I'll check out this righteousfelon.com stuff. But I just wanted to know what was awesome with the background, because I mean, everybody's got a story. It's like every belt has a story. That belt has a story. Righteous Felon has a story. I want to know. Sounds cool.
And you know what also has stories? Week 8 of the NFL. We're going to start with the biggest upset according to how we judge it. So, Dustin, I'm going to start with you. In your mind, what was the biggest upset of Week 8?
Oh, man, I was so afraid that you were going to pick this game. And when I saw that you didn't,
I almost did, but I'm like, nah.
I clapped with joy like a seal because I was like, I got to pick this game. Now, I will say, the Jags-Packers, I was almost going to pick that because that was almost going to be an upset. Yes, of course.
Puppers approves your pick.
But to me, in my mind, there was one pick for the biggest upset, and that is the Jameis Winston-led Browns beating the Baltimore Ravens. And let me tell you, this is probably... I heard on another podcast. I believe it was probably Fantasy Focus by ESPN, because I listen to them a lot, even though they don't need my listenership, but I still do listen. They said that this was probably what Browns ownership was worried about all along, because you want to know how many 300-yard games Deshaun Watson had in his time as a Brown, or has in his time as a Brown?
Hold on. Let me do the math. Hold on. Let's see.
Carry the 5.
Carry the 1. Don't forget to add an extra 0. Add Pythagorean a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 0.
Yes,
0.
0. Jameis Winston already has more 300-yard games in his time with the Browns than Deshaun had in his entire time. Jameis Winston threw for 334 yards and 3 touchdowns, including, this is why this one gets the most entertaining game for me. A lot of people are going to accuse me of Kaiser Sozeing it. If you know me, you know what that reference is, because I submit a long-time theory that that movie, people like the end of that movie. They don't necessarily, they think they like the whole movie, but they like the end of that movie because of how good it was. This is a case of that. This game, I was entertained by the fact that the Browns kept it close the entire time. It was back and forth. The Browns defense reminded everybody that they are good. But why it gets my pick for the most entertaining game of the week is because Jameis Winston, he's trying to bring the Browns back to tie the game. He throws a ball that should have been picked. It should have been picked. The Ravens had it in their arms, dropped it. It was a ball that Ravens defender, he knew he should have had it. He was down on the field after he did not get that ball. The very next play, Jameis Winston comes back and throws a bomb to Cedric Tillman to score with 59 seconds left, I believe it was. Game over. Browns win. Lamar Jackson tried to come back. They made it entertaining at the end. They almost, but the Browns were able to hold on, and the Browns get the biggest upset of the week for me. It was amazing, and I mean, Jameis, typical Jameis fashion. That year that when he was with the Bucs, he threw just as many picks as touchdowns. That's what happens.
Yeah. And Playmaker saying Derrick Henry, 11 carries, 73 yards, shaking my damn head, 6.6 yards per carry. John Harbaugh, what are you doing, sir?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. He's the reason why you've gotten this far on a positive note anyway this season. So you got to feed him the ball. But you got to look at that. I mean, that's a great pick with the Browns and the Ravens game, because we were talking about the same thing yesterday on Total Football Talk. But also, with all the hype with your team, Ryan, I just, it's I would say the most upsetting game of the week was the Jets losing to the Patriots, because you would think that if they're going to turn this thing around, if they have any last glimmer of hope, it's going to happen this past week in Week 8 against the Patriots. And it didn't. You lose a heartbreaking of a game, and it's all pointing at the signs of your quarterback and how about him being the problem. But at the same time, I mean, I think the Hassan Reddick situation is just as much of a blemish to this franchise as Aaron Rodgers is. You can't really point the finger all at one person here. Is he making his mistakes? Yes, but the mismanagement of Hassan Reddick in his own contract, his own agency dropping him because they didn't want to represent him anymore. Finally, he decides to come back, and he's not even in this game. Like, what's going on, man? Like, so is he out of shape? What's the news that I'm going to ask you with that? Because why was Hassan Reddick not in this game?
He was in this game. He was playing.
I just didn't notice an impact by him. I mean, like,
exactly. That's why.
That's my point. Like, where was he? Like, you give him this money, even though it's prorated now because of the point in the season he's coming back, and you like Aaron Rodgers doesn't play defense the last time I checked. And the Patriots, scored 25 points on their defense.
Well, some people would want to think that Aaron Rodgers plays every single position on the field by the way they talk about him. I'll address that in another segment. I'll just address another segment. But yeah, continue, dude. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's just like I just feel, even though there is pointing that needs to be made at Aaron Rodgers at the start of the season, did he turn the ball over in this game? No. So there's so many people out here in big time media with an A in the middle of their name and want to go after, this guy right here, which, yes. Has he made his mistakes? Yes. Should he have been there at training camp and in the mandatory camps? Yes. However, they suck as a whole collectively. So you got to point it at both sides. And there's three faces to the team: offense, defense, and special teams. Look at it for what it is. But yes, does he deserve the blame for offense and the drama? Yes. But you got to point at Hassan Reddick for the defense, and I rest my case.
My biggest upset this week, as mentioned in the comments by one Champy, he was talking about the Cardinals. My biggest upset was Cardinals and the Dolphins. And once again, the self-hatred game of the week, curse. There's his ugly head, because this game was a decent game. Hey guys, two returned. Yay.
It's like Humpty Dumpty, though.
Yeah.
Like, literally at this point, you touch him wrong, he's going to get a concussion. You give him a hug on the sideline, he's going to get a concussion.
You know what, though? I got to say one of the most entertaining parts of that game was when he slid.
Yeah.
The crowd went nuts at Hard Rock Stadium. I found that to be hysterical. hysterical.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I will say he proved to be the catalyst of this offense. The running game was clicking. He had some pretty decent passes. The Dolphins scored 20 points, over 20 points for the first time this season, which is unheard of considering all the times they scored over 30 last year. However, on the other side of the ball, Kyler Murray outplayed him. 308 yards, he ran for the 19, guided the Cardinals on a 13-play drive. See, this is the thing about the Cardinals this year, is that they don't have to score quickly. They don't have to score quickly. They don't have to do the whole video game kind of thing. They can take their time. They marched down the field in 13 plays. They got within field goal range for Chad Ryland, get that walk-off field goal. You go back to Arizona at 4-4, and it's shaping up to be a very entertaining NFC West division because you've got all 4 teams are in the hunt for first place right now. Who could have said that at this point of this season at the beginning of this year? I'll tell you who. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody could.
Well, the big thing is you finally had Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray clicking on all cylinders, it felt like, in this game, along with Trey McBride and the receiving core. I mean, that's how they were able to put up these points. And you were talking about, a week before how the two of them weren't clicking going into the previous game. They've been inconsistent with that this year, but you're also dealing with a rookie. So I think this is like one of those like flash in the pan moments of like, we're going to see good things for their future, but it's going to continue to be a little bit of a roller coaster ride. You also have to take it for what it is with the Dolphins just getting Tua back, and they haven't been looking good without him. And luckily they were competitive this week against a pretty solid Cardinals team, but the Cardinals have been smacked around too this year. Remember when they played the ones?
Your ones to the sky. Playmaker saying Ryan in the yay, shaking my head. Hey, I forgot you were watching Playmaker. Ron James is the greatest scorer of all time. Yay.
Get out of here with that. Somebody bring in Bishop Bullwinkle, please.
Oh, I got you. Hey, is LeBron James the greatest scorer of all time, Bishop Bullwinkle? We at church on Tuesday night.
Yes. We were making a reel out of that one.
Yes, we are. All right, worst leads up to the biggest disappointment of Week 8, and I'm not going to go ham sandwich like I did last week. This is not a 15-minute rant, extended rant that I went on last week. This is more of a New York Jets always finding new ways to lose, and nobody has any answers as to why, and nobody wants to answer those questions as to why. Let's put the banner up. You can't beat a rebuilding Patriots team with their backup quarterback on the field, and your interim head coach is basically following the same rules as the last head coach, Robert Saleh, in that he will not hold one player to account, including your kicker, who, let's face it, he's seen better days, but you can't release him because his contract is fully guaranteed. You can't. That's why he's not being released. If you can't do any of those things, if you can't find a way to beat a rebuilding team and what they're supposed to do, the defense is playing soft. Everybody's playing soft. Just tank the rest of the season. Just tank. And anyone who is, and as Drew pointed out, Aaron Rodgers can't play every position. We know it's such easy fodder because of the bias against him, to blame him for everything on this team. And you just want to say that people want to say, oh, he just wants to play with his boys. That's why they brought in Adams. That's why they brought in Hassan Reddick, who they didn't really know each other until basically Hassan Reddick walked into the building on last Tuesday. Look, it's the upper management who enables this behavior. Joe Douglas, Woody Johnson, every one of them enabled that kind of behavior that we supposedly know Aaron Rodgers for. At this point, London, you can have the New York Jets. You can have them, but I doubt that you would want them at this point because of the way they're putting the product out in the field. This is the most disappointing season as a Jets fan I've seen. And I saw what happened in 2019 and 2020. I witnessed those two seasons, especially 2020. That was an absolute garbage show. But now we got the most talented, arguably the most talented Jets roster ever, and you're 2-6 entering Halloween, which you're going to see you're going to see a Texans team is going to kick you in the teeth. Look, pack it in, Tank. Let's move on.
I think morale has part to do with it, though. You know, you can have all the talent that you want in the locker room, but in order to really truly flourish, and especially in these tight games when you should be making the right decisions, like the morale's got to be there together. They look so disconnected. Like, they don't look like a team.
Yeah,
they look like guys that are out there doing their job, getting there to get paid, do their thing, go home. Like football and the type with sports, it's a little bit more than that. Like it's not like us what we can do in the real world with job. Like you got to devote different type of areas to it as well and be thoroughly involved with it. If you aren't, it's not going to click, and it's not clicking for the Jets.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of dudes on a roster. They're not playing as a team. They're just a bunch of dudes with names in the back of the jersey. And like you said, Drew, all three phases of the game, they're not playing great right now. Offense is lackluster. Defense is soft. Special teams, especially at kicker, is not doing the job they're supposed to do. I think the only guy who's really making their worth on this team right now is Thomas Morstead, who's arguably one of the greatest punters ever. And yeah, I mean, the Jets didn't have any turnovers this game. They didn't cause any turnovers either, which has been one of their biggest bugaboos all season long. So I'm disappointed, as always. I'm disappointed. I'm a fan of this team. I kind of want to bandwagon another team for the rest of the year, but I don't like to want that stink on them with me jumping on board, whether it be the Lions or the Commanders or whatever.
You can have like favorite like teams that you like to watch, but it's best just to stay loyal to the team. Like last year absolutely sucked for me as a fan and for somebody covering them and doing a show for 17 games of them absolutely being terrible. But you tough it out, good things will come. I've learned that through other things I've experienced in my life. So keep toughing it out, man. It's nothing wrong with like enjoying watching other games and like pulling for other teams, especially if you drop a few bucks on them in DraftKings or something. But at the same time, or whatever you play around with it, if you do or you don't, or fantasy football, it's okay to have favorites, but you gotta stay loyal to your team. And
I'm trying
for you, man. Your entire life, they have been a dumpster fire. And you've just tried. Ever since Kermit the Frog, you have tried. And now look at where they're at when you have probably one of, since Brett Favre and then Mark Sanchez in those years when you've had the most hype on you in the past decade and a half, you get this. And it's just unfortunate to watch because I was even pulling for you. Like when we were talking about it early on in the season. And to watch this takes me back to watching those dumpster fire teams that I watched my own franchise. Just hopefully they turn it around before it's too late.
Yeah. Dustin, for you, Dustin, what about you? Biggest disappointment in week 8?
Well, this is a perfect segue, and I'm gonna say it ain't easy being green. And Ryan, that's for you. But it also, my biggest disappointment of the week also wears green at his home games. He wore white in this one, but my biggest disappointment is Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. And you might say, Dustin, in a week where Anthony Richardson played bad enough to get benched and he took a play off, as Ryan mentioned in our wonderful open, why would you pick Jordan Love? And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Jordan Love is a victim now, whether he likes it or not, of that contract that the Packers gave him. They rewarded him with a massive, massive contract, and they showed their faith in him, and they said, this is our guy. Jordan Love has thrown he has a habit of throwing interceptions in games quite a bit for someone who has been rewarded that handsomely. And normally he bails himself out with a couple of touchdowns. But how many touchdowns did he throw for this week? Goose egg. How many picks did he throw? 1. How many yards did he throw for? 196. He was 14 of 22 on his passes, and he did this against a Jaguars defense Jaguars, who have been hapless. They have been hapless. They haven't been able to beat anybody. This team is in trouble right now, and they almost upset the Packers. And to boot, Josh Jacobs is the reason that the Packers ended up winning this game with his running attack. And then Jordan Love gets hurt. Malik Willis comes in, goes 4 for 5, 56 yards, and throws a TD. So when you compare the performance that Malik Willis had, albeit in a very short window, to the performance that Jordan Love had when he had more of the game, and also the disparity in the contracts and the way that they rewarded Jordan Love prior to the season, I'm going to say Jordan Love is my biggest disappointment this week.
I like both of your picks. I really do. And I was actually, when both of you were giving your picks, I'm actually split between two different ones because they cost both of their teams the win. First one is going to be Alexander Madison, the running back of the Raiders, because he had 14 carries for 15 yards on the day. And he led his team in rushing. And you lost, as the Raiders did, to the still reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, undefeated this regular season Chiefs, 7-0, and you lose to them 27-20. You lost by a touchdown because you couldn't get your running back going, who had 14 carries for 15 yards. You tried to establish the run, but he was averaging like 1 yard per carry. So of course you're not going to do anything with that type of established of a run. And my second one is Anthony Richardson, because he tapped out of the game. Like, he tapped out of the game. He wanted to come out, and now he's lost his starting job to Joe Flacco, who led the Browns to a comeback last year. Watch Joe Flacco do what he did with the Browns last year and then secure a starting job in Indianapolis for like a year or two. And they become a team to watch. Maybe not like a Super Bowl threat, but at least an entertaining team to watch in AFC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think he will. Because we've already seen in spots of relief when Richardson was out with injury. There's no denying the Indy started to look like a team with weapons with Joe Flacco back there. And Joe Flacco is not going to take a play off or anything like that. And it's getting real in Indy there. And let's not forget either, not to but Anthony Richardson, he threw an inexcusable interception that gave the Texans a short field when the Texans were kind of struggling on the day. And that ended up being the difference in the game, is that touchdown, that easy touchdown that they gave the Texans after the short field. I mean, go back and watch that Anthony Richardson interception. It was as bad as any you'll see.
Absolutely. I mean, Cole and I were talking about it yesterday CJ Stroud's kind of had a little bit of a sophomore slump, and it's disguised behind the rest of the team doing pretty well. The defense has been helping him out. You lose Stephon Diggs now to injury. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what goes on with this team for the rest of the year. A lot of curveballs have been thrown at the midway point.
Well, gentlemen, I got some breaking news that just has come across the wire. So let's do some breaking news real quick. All right, this is not football related, although there's some fire hose. The fire hose news is coming across with the NFL, but this is actually related to hockey. Alexander Ovechkin has scored 2 goals in the first period. He's now 37 behind Wayne Gretzky for first all time in NHL regular season goals. So good for him. I'm rooting for Ovi. I mean, be a Devils fan. I've always been a fan of Ovi.
Is he still with the Caps?
He's still with the Capitals.
Nice.
An ageless wonder, Alexander Ovechkin. We'll see if he gets to Jaromir Jagr territory.
Jagr played forever, man.
Oh yeah.
This is actually Jagr's last professional season. He plays for the team he owns in the Czech Republic. This is his final professional season.
He's like 52 years old or something like that.
Yes, he is.
That's his age? 52?
52, yeah.
He's, I thought, yeah. Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
A la Michael Jordan on the Wizards. Yarmir is still playing for a team he has a stake in or owns completely. I don't know.
Jordan wasn't 50 though.
No, he was not.
He was late 30s into 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, good for Ovi. Rooting for
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him. He's got plenty of time to try to break that record, but we're gonna keep rolling along with week 8. We're talking about the most notable performances from week 8. Dustin, I'm gonna start with you. For you, which performance stuck out in your mind in week 8?
Well, it seems easy, but I feel compelled because we at different times on this show and a lot of other people have talked a little trash on old Kirk 2 Chainz Cousins. But he's starting to figure it out in Atlanta. He's starting to get those weapons going, and Atlanta looks like they have a competent offense, even though they were upset by my Seattle Seahawks a mere week ago. But they're starting to put it together on offense, and a lot of it is due to Kirk's play. When he first came out in the beginning of the season, he looked rusty. And he looked like, maybe that shoulder's not all the way healed. But he looked good this game, and he's looked very good at stretches for the Atlanta Falcons. He threw for 276 yards. He also was, where are my notes?
4 touchdowns, 23 of 29, 276 yards.
Thank you very much.
Solid performance.
Yes, it was. And I get that he didn't throw for 300 yards, and that's kind of like the benchmark for the quarterbacks in a lot of people's minds. If you go over 300 yards, you've had a good game as long as you've thrown. But you don't have to go over 300 yards if you're that efficient. He's getting the pieces involved that we bemoaned Arthur Smith for not touching. The Falcons look like an offense. They look like a team now. They took over sole possession of first place in the NFC South with this win. So Kirk's got him humming on offense right now. Got to take my hat off to Kirk Cousins. And yes, Kirk, I do like that.
You like that?
You like that? Yeah.
My most notable performance this week was Khalil Raymond of the Detroit Lions. Give some love to the Lions here again. So he had 2 receptions for 14 yards and 1 touchdown. Wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. But that's not what stood out. What stood out was that Raymond had 190 return yards. That's 17 from the single game record in NFL history. 5 returns, 190 yards, including a 90-yard return for a touchdown. And that was a touchdown that broke the game open for the Lions in a 52-14 butt whooping, steamrolling of the Tennessee Titans. And I said to Dustin, I texted Dustin while I was watching Red Zone. I said, you know what? The Detroit Lions special teams, their return team might be my most notable performance of the week. And turns out, it was actually right after Raymond scored that touchdown. So I saw the final stats for him: 190 yards on punt returns. So congratulations to him. And honorable mention to Jared Goff. 12 of 15 for only 85 yards, but he still threw 3 touchdowns.
He's efficient. When the Lions are dump trucking people like that, why do he doesn't need to do much.
Well, I saw somebody try to clown him on social media. It's like, the Lions have scored 28 points. And he's only got 35 passing yards. I'm like, yeah, they're up 28-14. You dink.
Yeah, they're not watching the game and they're not looking at games. I mean, you modify game script based on what happens.
Right. And I think that it's a crazy stat that I think one of our local, actually friend of the show, Tom Gazlowski, said on the Levac and Gaz yesterday. It was one of our local media, Fox Sports Radio shows. I think there's a stat that in the last 5 games, Jared Goff has only 23 incompletions.
Oh yeah, he's been
ridiculous
on fire.
Stat.
He's been on fire.
I'll have to double check that on Pro Football Reference real quick, but
I like both of your picks, but I want to give a shout out to, we got to look at the Rams and the Vikings game. What happened with that? Because I mean, with the Rams winning, they're still in contention with the West. And we were talking about that earlier in the show. My shout out with this one for notable performance was Matthew Stafford getting his receivers going with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp recently coming back from injuries. Getting a touchdown to Cooper Kupp, and improving this Rams record to 3-4 over a team in the Vikings who just came off of a tough loss to the Lions, and we're looking to rebound from that. Now the Vikings have fallen to two, losing the past 2 games, which makes the rest of their season a little bit more difficult than what it was in the past 2 weeks. And then the Rams now going on a little bit of a run to getting closer to 500. They could sneak back in there as a team to watch for the rest of the season if they stay healthy and if they don't trade away Cooper Kupp. But looking at how things went in this past week, why would you trade him? You still have one more week that you can use him this weekend because the trade deadline isn't until November 5th. So see what happens this week. If you get to 500, what's the point in even trading him? You got a chance.
There's no point.
The rest of this team, I mean, they still had to figure some things out, and they still might have a little bit of a rocky road the rest of the season, but they can still stumble into a team in the playoffs in the first round or two, being a little bit of danger for a team that came in with a lot of hype, knocking them off. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they did take the Lions to the limit in week 1, too. Let's not forget, because now we see how good the Lions are.
Yeah. And I did this some real-time research, fellas. I stand corrected. So Jared Goff, in his last 5 games, he doesn't have 23 incompletions. He has only 18.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got to be less.
Yeah.
He's ridiculous.
In the game in Arizona, he went 18 for 23. Against the Dustin Seahawks, he went 18 for 18.
Yeah, he was perfect.
Against Dallas, he was 18 of 25. Against Minnesota, he was 22 of 25. And the game against Tennessee this week, he was 12 for 15. So he is playing. Like I said, I think he should be an MVP candidate going into week 9 of the NFL season. He should be up there as a candidate. I guess I know we have the Lamar Jacksons and the Patrick Mahomeses of the world, but got to throw Jared Goff into the conversation.
You also have to look at Josh Allen. Because Josh Allen went nearly 8 weeks. He went nearly the first 8 weeks through without throwing an interception until this past weekend. He went 7.5 games, almost 8 games without throwing an interception. He was ahead a pretty good streak going on with it. As much shade as we want to throw at Josh Allen, you at least have to acknowledge that. Like that's a pretty decent streak he was on.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I've had to live with Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Tom Brady for 20 years. Now I got to live with Josh Allen. So it's got to be
I know it's within your division, but
it's in my division.
I know you're not going to pull for him though. At the same time, it's not going to be one of your teams that you like secretly watch either.
Well, I mean, I have a couple of Buffalo Bills fans in my family, so I kind of had to acknowledge them, but whatever. All right. Before we get to our last category, Victor Law saying every time I heard about a Tua's highlight, I kept asking, "But he's safe? Is he safe though?" That's how worried I am about Tua for a while. He also says, at some point we need to see Brother Guest again at the City Fifth. And Kevin Wilson saying, "Freddie." Not sure it was referring to, but.
Oh, wait! Did something happen in the game already?
Perhaps.
Great.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm guessing. And Kevin told me to get behind the Dodgers, so yeah, I'm guessing it's Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, they're up 2-0.
Destroyed us.
They're up 2-0 in the top of the first.
Like I said before, the best team that money can buy. All right, we're gonna move on to our final category.
Freddie hit a 2-run home run to give him the 2-run lead.
Of course, he did.
Update.
He's gonna win World Series. That's what he's gonna win World Series.
He's getting the MVP. Oh, no doubt. But I'm mad to see him do it in the Dodger uniform because I'm a Braves fan.
Yeah, I was
part of the Braves World Series. Watching that with him there. And the next year we got the whole debacle with this agent telling him about how the Braves didn't want to match their offer. Well, they matched it. He should be a Brave right now. But I'm happy for him at the same time. He deserves it.
All right, our last category of the night: hottest individual take from the week. Dustin, I know you're chomping at the bit to get your take in for this week. So go ahead and what's your what's your hottest individual takeaway from week 8?
Well, I have a feeling that there's going to be some overlap between your take and my take, but I think we're going to take it down different routes as we often do. My take is that players are human, and we have to remember that. And the reason I'm saying that is because Geno Smith came out and said some things that some Seahawks fans have taken umbrage with this week after the loss at Lumen Field on Sunday. A horrible loss. The team looked bad. Everything looked bad. There was a point in the game I knew it was over when the Bills scored, and then the Seahawks were driving. They're in the red zone. They go for it on 4th down, 4th and goal. Geno drops back to pass, trips over something, falls down. I said, we're done. We're done. It's over. And the rest of the game just went horrifically for the Seattle Seahawks. As Kevin Wilson said earlier, I did throw up after what I saw. But after the game, Geno praised the Bills during his press conference. He said, you can say that we made mistakes, but they capitalized. And then he talked about the Bills Mafia and how well they traveled. And he said, at times it felt like we were on the road. And it has been well known that Seattle has had one of the best home field advantages in the NFL over the last period of time, over the last, I'd say, decade or so. And a lot of Seahawks fans took umbrage with what Geno said. And they said that, he's throwing us under the bus. He's saying that we didn't cheer loud enough. He's saying this, he's saying that. One, it's after a game where you just got your tail whipped, okay? And and I don't know about you, but when I have a bad day at work, I'm usually not brought out in front of the media and told to talk about it. Okay? And the other thing is, we always say that we want players to show their fire, show their passion. Geno was mad during that game, and you could see it, and you could see DK Metcalf, of all people, went over and tried to comfort him. DK's fuse running a little short has been well documented, but DK was trying to go over there and say, hey, we'll get him next time, something like that. But to the fans that were bemoaning Geno Smith, he's a human being, and he said what was on his mind after the game, and people are going to do that sometimes. They're going to have reactions. We can't complain about athletes having robotic responses or showing no emotion or not showing any fire, and then complain when the fire comes out because we don't necessarily agree with what they say or do. Athletes are humans too. I get that they're paid a lot of money. They have media sensitivity training, and they have all sorts of things, but they are human beings at the end of the day.
All right. So my hottest individual takeaway. This might lose me some followers or friends, but all right, just bear with me, all right? I don't understand the pearl clutching after Nick Bosa flashes a MAGA hat at the end of the Sunday Night Football game. It was for like 2 seconds. I saw an article on The Athletic. I read it, and the title of the article is from Jim Trotter. Says, when it comes to political expression, does the NFL have double standards? Let me give you some examples. So for a good decade, we've been treated to Colin Kaepernick and his antics when he kneeled on the field before the game, where he had the cop has a pig socks on, all his antics, and there's a whole conspiracy theory about him not being in the NFL anymore. Okay, we had that in our faces. So we also saw we've also seen on the field and during 2020, and since then we've seen the messages on the field in the back of the helmets and on the field where it has messages like vote and racism, unity. But Nick Bosa flashes a MAGA hat on national television for like 2 seconds, and suddenly we need to have a conversation about political messaging on the field, and there's a double standard. No, stop, please. Okay, this shows a double standard. It's a double standard in journalism, because I know a lot of journalists, they vote a particular way, and I don't mean to bring politics into this, but I'm bringing politics into this because it's my show. Look, it's a double standard because athletes have a voice too. Athletes have a voice too. We hear both sides. We heard athletes, both former and present, giving their opinion politically about who they're voting for, how to vote. But with journalists and with the media, the political messages are okay as long as it's on their side, as long as it's their side's being promoted, as long as it's their side who's getting the bump. And when Nick Bosa goes on national TV for like 2 seconds, for maybe 2 seconds, has his MAGA hat on and just runs away, that's a double standard. I don't understand the pearl clutching. And I understand at the press conference afterwards, he says I don't have, he was asked about it. He says, I don't have I don't really want to comment about it, but it's an important time. Yes, it's an important time, but I wished he would have had a little bit more courage to say, yeah, I wore the hat. This is how I feel. I'm allowed to have these messages. It's a free country. We're protected by the First Amendment. So let's put it this way to journalists, to the media, to everyone who's okay with political messages by players or by athletes, as long as it's on their side of the aisle. Okay. Either Nick Bosa's side can have his political expression too, or let's not have political messages on the field, period. Let's save it for outside the field. All right. Can we hold that? Can we go on that in that standard? Probably not. But this is how I feel about it. It's like you can't clutch your pearls every time somebody has an opinion different from you. I'm pretty sure Dustin, we probably have different. I mean, full disclosure, I lean a little bit more to the center, a little more right of center when it comes to my values, my politics. I'm pretty sure Dustin feels different ways. I'm pretty sure Drew, he feels a different way. Some of the folks we've had in the show, they feel a different way. We're all still friends. It's okay. It's okay to disagree, to have different opinions. So stop the pearl clutching. Let the man speak if he needs to speak.
Yeah, I mean, the ones who can't have these type of conversations is lack emotional intelligence. The ones that are getting all heated about it, they let their emotions get involved in it.
Right.
But
exactly.
But with my hottest individual takeaway from week 8, you guys definitely brought some really great points to the table. And I might be a little bit biased with where my hot take is, because, you got to think about the path of this road where this team formerly known as the REDSKINS is at, now 6-2, put up the second most points, I believe, in the NFL as far as points scored, just behind the Baltimore Ravens by like 6 points. Is the highest scoring team in the league, and went toe to toe with the Ravens. This Commanders team has put everybody on notice. They drafted him this offseason. They definitely did. I wish I could have got a Jaden Daniels jersey, but they were sold out of it in the big boned edition on Fanatics website, and I wanted to make sure I got something before the game. This is actually the jerseys they were wearing on that day, so which they only wear during week 8 and week 13. But to be there and witness what I witnessed live, the individual takeaways I have, the hottest takes, is that Jaden Daniels reminded this league that he's here for many years to come. He just has to stay healthy, and I think that with how they handled the rib situation, it reminded me of like what it was like to pay attention to the injury report of the Bill Belichick-led Patriots teams back in the day, when he would have everybody on the injury report, and then you would wonder who was going to be playing the next week and who wasn't, during the prime days of him running the Patriots when they were playing really well. Tom Brady would even be on that thing for a while. So with the way this thing was developed all year, all week long, with how if he was going to play, if he wasn't going to play, because even when we did Total Football Talk Extra last Friday, we didn't even know if he was going to play this Sunday, and I was concerned about still making the trip and if they wasn't going to play and still having faith in Mariota, which the game would not have ended like that, I don't believe, if Mariota had that exact opportunity with 65 yards left. My hot individual take from this week is that the Commanders have a very bright future. I just wish they would change the name to something else. But at the same time, I at least I've stayed loyal to them. This is the first jersey I've gotten, and maybe the only one I get, because I'm hoping they change the name back, because Native American ancestry, the ones who want that name to be what it is, would have loved to embrace that team with that name in that moment. Imagine if that team didn't have that type of win. When was the last time, you guys are older than me, that you saw that team, that franchise, have that kind of victory? When was the last time? Because I don't recall since 92, January of 92, when they won the Super Bowl for the 91 season. When was the last time they had a win like that?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember one. And prior to this, you want to know what my memory of your favorite football team is in 2002, when they started out 0-5 and then they won their next 5 to get to 5-5 under Marty Schottenheimer, of all people.
8-8 and fired him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There's been a lot of heartaches with this franchise. That's why, for me to even be there and then do this with you guys, to actually be there and witness that, I would have had a similar feeling maybe on TV. I mean, if it was on TV and watching it, from home. But being there is something. It's something to behold, man. So I'm hoping that for both of your teams, I hope the Jets finally get together and Ryan McCarthy can finally go see something like that and watch it live. And I hope the same for your team as well there, Dustin, because, we've all experienced our big tale of woes with our team. And it's time. It's time to get back on track, even though you have the most recent Super Bowl with the Seahawks.
Yes.
But you, after that, the next year, have the blunder of where he should have just ran the ball to Skittles. Skittles should have got the ball and ran the ball in the end zone. Instead, Russell Wilson throws the interception. So you have been there closer, but then also have the heartache too. So all of us collectively, our team has been taking years off our life, okay? And to be there and to maybe get an extra year bonus. That was awesome, if I can gather that from that moment, because the feeling from that electricity was great. I don't know how me personally, can have a hotter take than that, than being at that game this past week.
All right. Well, thanks, Drew, for being here. We're going to get out of here. Before that, we're going to read some comments. Subscribe now. Don't miss out on new content, whether it be on No Credentials Required, on Sartoba Media, which is where Drew is streaming right now, both on his Facebook and his YouTube pages. Subscribe to Sartoba Media. Subscribe to No Credentials Required. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell, too, because you don't miss out on new comment. There it is. Look at that. Let's see where we go here. For Dustin's Uncle Al saying, does anybody... What are you doing?
He's showing off the Sartoba Media logo.
He is, but he's going deep. Does anybody want to win the NFC West? Well, that's what the next 9 weeks will decide. Or 8, the next 10 weeks will decide. Playmaker saying, oh no, the 12th man not showing up. Hey, wait a minute. Gino doesn't write back.
I knew I was opening up for Playmaker on that one. I knew.
And Playmaker, feel free to stop by again on Friday night at 8:30. We'll be drinking some adult beverages and talking. You can bring all the smack talk you want for week 9. Mickey Delaney checking in saying, hey Drew, hey Ryan, hey there.
What's up, Mick?
Mickey, good to see you. Al says, I vote no messages. The NFL, quote, cares about what will make them the most money. True. Mickey says also shared and liked. Jersey G saying Kid Rock and Eminem just had a post about how they're still friends despite their political differences. That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Nello saying, go Washington, keep winning. Also says, I jumped up like a cat off the ground when we won. Ha ha ha, tears in the eyes and all. And then the contrary, Dustin's Uncle Al saying, you need the Washingtons to be bad. It's the only thing that kept the Giants from being permanently owning the basement.
The Washingtons. That was.
I will say though, Uncle Al's been suffering a long time as a Giants fan now.
Oh, boo-hoo! So. He's seen all 4 Super Bowls. Boo-hoo.
I know.
Cry me a giant river, okay?
But at least your franchise won one. They had to go to 4 and lose.
Yeah. No, that's why. I get it. Since I said all I wanted to do was see the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, before I shuffled loose this mortal coil, and I saw it, and they should have won the second. You're right, Drew. And who knows, maybe that legendary defense would have been together for just a couple more years if Pete made the right call and ran the ball. But what are we going to do?
But at least your heartache, I mean, at least you've got one. Okay?
Yep.
Because you went to another one before that with Hasselbeck and with Sean Alexander, who eventually became
that game.
Sorry as well, Al, because you had to endure one of those L's to that team, the historic part, which eventually became this. You already know the story. But yes, at least you did not have the Bills heartache.
That no one matches. I still say though that 90s Bills team doesn't get enough love. Going to 4 straight Super Bowls, I don't think no one could do that today.
And by the
way,
they
were like the Braves of the NFL. Because the Braves did get a Super Bowl, but they should have won several more in baseball. Yeah. I mean, they got a World Series, not a Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by the way, Al, I've rooted for the Giants for 2 of those Super Bowls because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. All right, we're gonna get out of here, but before we do, let's give Drew an opportunity to plug his stuff. Drew, where can the good people find you?
Well, as Ryan and Dustin had shared, and then we had talked about earlier, you have this belt right here. This is Sartoba Media, the Sartoba Media Championship, which you can find on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, all the major platforms, Instagram, SIRTOBA. It stands for The Struggle is Real to Be Awesome. You can also see it on the hat right there too. But this championship has every single show that I do, the Commander's Gridiron Report, Total Football Talk, as well as D. Willy in the Evening, and In or Out Sports Debate, which both of those 2 shows on that side are actually on hiatus right now. One of them coming back soon. The other one that the 2 of you have been on, the In or Out Sports Debate, may be a little while because, as you know, from being on that show, it's a pretty in-depth work of art. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to put it together. And it takes a minute to put together, but then the fun makes it even well worth it, but just don't have the time for that. But Commander's Gridiron Report, usually on Tuesdays, 1:05 p.m. Eastern. I'm on vacation this week, so I'm going to probably get it done at some point within the next 2 days. But every single Monday, Total Football Talk, you can find from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time with myself and Cole Johnson, where we talk NFL football. And then with the coffee-drinking master of the felon-produced jerky, my man Ryan McCarthy and I do Total Football Talk Extra, which you can find on Fridays on No Credentials Required page, as well as Sartoba Media and Comey Media, which is our guy Cole Johnson, the EP of all EPs. You can find him with me on Mondays, but he also co-produces that show as well. We got those 2 shows, Total Football Talk and Total Football Talk Extra, which is what I definitely get involved with every single week on those 2 days, Monday and Friday. So you can start your week with great football, and you can end your week with great football, followed by the football that exists on the weekends, but the coverage is throughout the week. And thank you guys for having me. It was definitely a blast getting up with both of you again. This has been a while, and I don't usually have Tuesdays off from work, so this is definitely, fun for all of us. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Welcome anytime. Enjoyed it.
For sure. And we're going to get out of here in just a second, but before that, just don't forget to follow us on social media, facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, Twitter, Instagram, scarcely use TikTok @NoCredsREQ, youtube.com/@NoCredsREQ. On the podcast side, subscribe wherever you podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, and Pandora. Also, get yourself notified. Hit that notification bell on Twitter and or on YouTube. And, of course, rate and review or comment wherever you podcast. They help the show. And if you're watching live or like you've been doing, thank you for watching, everybody who's been watching live or you're watching on replay on YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble tomorrow morning at 8. Engage with the show. Leave a comment, except for your thirsty hoes who always say, hey, your show is great. I want to help you promote it. We're poor. We don't have the money.
Yes. It can't be. Yeah. Gotta do it the natural way. Just not with baby oil.
Yikes. All right, we're going to get out.
I said not. I'm just not trying not to be the diddler. No.
One full crate from Costco. We're going to get out of here. But thank you for tuning in to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. For Drew Willingham, for Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. We'll be back on Friday at 8:30 Eastern, as Drew zooms in, for No Credentials Required Happy Hour. And Dustin, don't forget, Dustin's going to be live streaming 24 consecutive hours, hopefully, of video game playing to raise money for Bernard and Millie Duker Children's Hospital at Albany Med. Thanks again, folks. Tune in Friday. Until then, have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
There we go.